What a week, what a week, what a week. Tommy Grisafi, Ag Bull Media, Ag Bull Podcast. We're going to bring him on here in a second, the one and only Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. We're talking about Wiesemeyer's perspectives, and this is going to be a heck of a show. Now, before we start, I'd just like to ask you one more time, like, subscribe. The show is free. Send it to friends. How this day started is not how it ended. Let's bring him in the show, Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. He's just doing hair and makeup. They say he's done. He looks beautiful. How you doing?
As they say, a face for radio. Here we go.
Oh, I saw you taking a sip of your pop. I'm like, I'll give him one more sip. Yeah.
Yes, and I was at a crop insurance agents meeting in Savannah, Georgia, beautiful place, and more than a few of the agents said they're now listening or watching this program, and some of them knew you, Tommy. So I think we're getting around now.
They probably saw my picture at the post office. we got a heck of a show. Hey, I'll click the buttons. You be the brains. I'll be the
okay.
I'll be the little clicker that could. I do have a couple. I got some sounds loaded up, some new stuff here, but let's start with. Let's look at here. Should we start with that the government's shutting down?
Yes, let's start with that.
What this pretty picture? And why is Chuck Schumer back there? Every day gets better for us. What's that all about?
Well, that's the spin by both political parties. Now Chuck Schumer is saying, and the Democrats believe that they're winning this shutdown debate. But you can see in that picture that's his spin. But then the Republican spin is by you not voting in the Senate Democrats. They need 8 of those votes, by the way. They've got 3 or 4 by now. But you're hurting the military on pay and things like that. And so there's your spin on that one. And usually I'm asked, when is this going to end? Both sides, Tommy, are dug in, and that means later rather than sooner. And we've already seen some impacts. There was no October crop production report or the WASDE report on October the 9th. There's no export sales reports on Thursday. From a trading perspective, we didn't have the commitments of traders report, and that's an important one that people dissect. From a farmer perspective, we've had no farmer program payments. That's the ARC and the PLC. Payments for 2024 crop. But the big one is $1.8 billion is ready to be paid out for the Conservation Reserve Program. And then the SDRP.
I got that right here, this one?
Yeah, we've got 2 on them because a lot of listeners to this podcast have sent me emails about this. Now, let's go through that one because they've paid out $5 billion has already been paid out, but their program funding is a little over $16 billion. Now I've detailed the 2023 loss and 2024 loss. Now most of the farmers have been asking me, well, what about stage 2? And that's the next chart, Tommy.
Okay.
That was supposed to come out this week, but with the government down, that's being held off. So it'll eventually, once they come back, which we don't know, probably by the end of this month, I would say that they should be back. We're going to get the stage 2 payment. Now, go back to the first one. What farmers really want is look right in the middle. The initial payment factor was at 35% for the disaster assistance program. Well, that was pretty low. Top-up payments are anticipated following stage 2. Now, they could make them by the end of this calendar year, but I think the top-up payments, and I have no idea what they'll be, maybe 55, 60%, from 35% to 55, 60%. I hope they're higher. They'll probably be paid either late this year or I think more likely in 2026. And that should answer a lot of the questions I'm getting on this. Okay. Wow. The SDRP Stage 2 is going to be announced when USDA comes back, and that's going to take some time to implement. And then USDA has to see how much is paid out under stage 2 before they can calculate a top-up payment for the SDRP beyond the 35% level that has already been paid. And speculation only, it could be in the 55 to 60% area, but they've got a chunk of funds to use. That $16.09 billion, of which only $5 billion has been paid out. So that's really SDRP, Tommy. And then the other aspects of the government shutdown, it's going to delay the Renewable Fuel Standard Program announcements well into November, if not December. And that's, if you recall, that's EPA has to make a decision on the small refinery reallocations, what percentage basis will be reallocated. So that's going to be held off. And also important for oil seeds and corn, if it's an eligible commodity under the 45Z program.
Wow.
IRS, they furloughed around 50% of the Internal Revenue Service employees. So everything's being held off. So we're going to delay some of these important farmer related programs by months, probably.
Wow.
And it's going to be, and here's the big one for farmers, listening, it's going to delay the U.S. Farmer Aid Program. That's part of the ongoing China trade war now that we can, get into, the U.S. Farmer Aid.
Wow. And just to let folks, yeah, there it is right there. USDA Farmer Aid coming, but what and when?
Yes, that's the key. Now, we know through all the speculation this week on this program, Tommy, I think it'll be between 12.5 billion to 15 billion dollars. And I don't want to get too wonky now as far as where they're finding the money. It'll be a combination of Commodity Credit Corporation, CCC money, 4 to 5 billion left in that. And also, they have creative lawyers in any administration, Democrat or Republican, and there's billions of dollars floating around in government all the time.
If
So,
you need money, you go to the Trump cash machine right
yeah,
here, Department of the Treasury.
yeah, I don't think that they'll have an issue. Now, here's another connection with the getting Congress back.
Okay.
Uh, the agriculture appropriations bill will be one of the first bills that they vote on, and that will likely include a replenishment of funding for the Commodity Credit Corporation up to their maximum of $30 billion. So watch for that. That'll help fund this and other programs. And then later on this year, calendar year, Senator Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa, Holvin, Republican from North Dakota, has more than signaled that Congress is going to attempt another economic aid bill like they did last year. If you recall, on December 21st, they passed $10 billion in economic aid and almost $21 billion in disaster aid. So that's going to wait until after they come back. Now, a lot of emails I get also on whenever the trade-related aid program is announced by USDA. Again, it will take the government coming back because that's what USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins said at the cabinet meeting this week. What commodities are going to be included and how are they going to base the payment? Now, I went back and looked at the 2018 China trade war payment, and I couldn't believe it. They paid it on actual production in 2018. I think that was a stupid approach because
why is that?
They should base it on yield on APH, adjusted history, production history. Why do I say that? If you had a bad crop this year and they base it on actual production, well, you're hurt both ways. So they should base it on APH, but we're going to see. That's one of the things I'm going to look out for. Now, let's go through some of it's obvious that soybeans have been the most affected. You saw that in the marketplace today. And if we could start running those charts, Tommy, on
will we bring up that
zero
metals
purchasing,
chart? Will
zero
we bring up that
purchasing.
metals chart later?
Well, let's bring up the metals chart first because there was breaking news this morning. China came out, actually overnight their time, and
Mm-hmm.
said they were going to put even significant constraints on the exports of their precious minerals. Well, that was big because and I knew it would get President Trump more than upset. He came out, yes, and he came out on Truth Social and said, uh, not a good way to go, that they're mulling a big, massive increase in tariffs on China products. And he pulled back participating in a meeting with Xi Jinping, China's leader, at the end of this month or early November. And that's what tanked
I mean, that moved the
soybeans
market. Mm-hmm.
early in the morning. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's what tanked it. So now it really what's happening is both leaders, Trump and Xi Jinping, are flexing their muscles, and I think Xi Jinping is testing Trump, but this thing can get pretty negative because precious minerals are so important in a potpourri of products, cell phones, uh, defense equipment, cars. That'll affect the global economy if it lasts very long. So right now we have a battle of the Titan countries, the U.S. and China, and that's not good for U.S. agriculture because American Soybean Association came out in a statement and said they are more than concerned about this because they were hoping that Xi Jinping and Trump would indeed meet the last day of October and the first days of November at the ASEAN meeting in South Korea. Well, that could still happen, but not right now. So that's where we're at geopolitically. They're firing shots at each other. But so then that makes the coming China trade related aid program even more important. And now we can go through some of the commodities that's going to be impacted by that trade aid, Tommy, with the
Mm-hmm.
zero purchases yes. You can see from this chart, look at the bottom, the blue. On the left-hand side, that's what China had been buying from the U.S. Even in January, but it used to be a lot higher, and we'll have that chart later on. But look, it's gone to zero. Zero. China had been
Unbelievable.
over 50% of all U.S. soybean exports before. Argentina recently sold them 2.5 million tons of soybeans, and in the usual time frame that we sell our beans to them, and then go to the next one. Yes, that shows you vividly. I mean, look at the far right, zero purchases. Zero is not a good number here, okay? And look at 2018 and 2019. That was the time of the last U.S.-China tariff war, and you can see the impacts here.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's
yeah,
something else.
and earlier this week, I talked to one of my best China watcher sources, and he said until the Brazilian new crop comes on, they're just planting it right now, but until the new crop comes on next year, he told me China needs about 7 to 8 million metric tons of soybeans. Now, does that mean they would have come to us? Or they have 25 million tons of soybeans in reserve. So they can last until the new crop beans come on board
Mm-hmm.
after harvest in Brazil, February, March timeframe next year. It was expected prior to this fisticuffs this morning between Xi Jinping and Trump that China was going to make a token buy of 3 to 5 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans at this meeting they were going to have. Well, now that's up in the air. So we know soybeans is important, China. Let's go through some of the other
Mm-hmm.
crops, Tommy. Sorghum. I've said this on the air before, but now this is a graphic that shows it. Look at the far right. We're down over about 2.3 million metric tons. Now, for sorghum, that's why their cash prices are just sinking. And that if that continues, that's going to be more corn acres in 2026. So that's an impact on corn. No one
Look,
can tell me because we have record corn exports this year. That doesn't mean they shouldn't get aid because they're
oh,
being
absolutely.
impacted. They're
Yeah.
being impacted by the China situation because they're going to get more plantings, which already happened this spring. You probably had 3 to 5 million more acres of corn planted as a
Hmm.
result of farmers seeing that a U.S.-China trade war was brewing again. So that's sorghum. Okay,
Yeah. Then we have
dramatic
cotton.
decline, almost $2 billion differences in exports to
Wow.
sorghum. Now they love our sorghum because of what they call biju beer. Okay, and I've
Hmm.
drank it. I've drunk it over
What's it
China.
taste like? Ain't good?
It's very good. Yeah, I didn't mind it. Of course, I
You
don't mind
didn't
any beer.
mind it.
I drink agriculture's crops.
I
Okay.
love it. Hey, I want to give all our listeners a big thank you and tell you this episode with Tommy Grisafi and Jim Wiesemeyer is heavy, heavy, heavy on charts. And so if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, any of that stuff, we love you. But you might want to head over to the YouTube channel, click like and subscribe because Mr. Jim sent us a lot of charts and we loaded up a lot of charts. And this is before all heck broke loose. But upon recording this right now on Friday afternoon, the Dow Jones is down 750 and the NASDAQ's down 750. By the time we get this uploaded an hour or two, be interesting to see where the markets close. It'd be interesting to see where the markets open on Sunday. Now back to the show. Cotton,
Yeah,
Mr.
and we'll
Wiesemeyer.
explain what the charts mean too, because I just said $1.8 billion downturn in U.S. sorghum exports to China, and that's an impact. And that's why sorghum or milo, whatever you want to call it, they better be part of this payment. Now the next one is cotton, and you can
Mm-hmm.
see again in recent years, China generally imported between 2 and 5 million bales annually of U.S. cotton, but as the chart shows, that's very, very minimal. So the loss of the Chinese market is a key factor, is why we have cotton prices in the mid 60s. They're probably lower today. I didn't look. And before, when China imported 3 to 5 million bales of U.S. cotton, cotton futures averaged about 90 cents. So there's your
Wow.
impact from the mid
That's horrible.
60s to 90 cents. That
That's horrible.
means cotton better get a trade related aid payment. Okay. And
Look at
again,
this.
I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
even some farm media says this will be a bailout payment. Oh my goodness. It's not a bailout. This won't even come
You've
close.
heard people say that?
Oh, seen it. I've seen it in print. It's not a bailout. They're not going to be made whole. And it's an insult. It's an insult to say that. Now, then we have the next
That'd be
one.
like saying if you and I lost 10 pounds, we were anorexic.
Well, my doctor, my doctor gave me some artificial intelligence pictures of me if I lost 40 to 50 pounds. He showed them to me. He said,
Did
"This
your
is what
hair
you
grow
can look
back?
at."
Did
I'm
your
telling you,
hair grow back?
I look hot. Well, no, he did one of them. He made me bald. But I mean,
Uh-huh.
I could go to Hollywood after if
Oh
I
my
look like
God.
that again. But
Oh my
anyway,
God.
I digress.
So we digress is right. But you know what? The craziness of today, we need a good chuckle. That made me laugh. Soybean production, my friend.
Yeah. What a lot of writers and analysts are not pointing out is look at the increase in Brazilian and actually Argentina production since the last U.S.-China trade war. Look at Brazil. I mean, it's in that 175 million metric ton area where it had been, let's see, right about what,
Mm-hmm.
120 million, So they got a lot more soybeans to sell in Brazil. So it's just not a trade thing. This is a production angle in Brazil. That's my point. That you
Okay.
see it graphically, but you can hear it too. And that was from the American Soybean Association.
Oh boy, I've been talking to my friends on the Soybean Association. They are really pulling hard for folks out there.
Well, and this is why. Let's go through again. You would have to, you'll see this, but monthly U.S. soybean exports versus exports to China, it's just a sad tale from last year through August this year. I mean, it's L0 at the end now, but you can see how this is dramatically impacting the soybean export situation. That's that one. Then you can go through
Hmm.
monthly Brazil soybean exports versus exports to China, and you can see vividly, Tommy, how Brazil is overtaking that market. And so it's China's share of United States and Brazil soybean exports. Again, uh, Brazil now has a 73% market share, where the US, prior to this plummeting, had about 52%. So you can see where we used to have
We're
a much
really
higher figure, a 60, 62%.
losing our leadership in being the world's producer of soybeans, aren't we,
We
Jim?
are. Now, what's the long-term implications? Because, with the two leading powers in the world, US and China, I think this is going to go on for certain years. This means that the US soybean sector has to do a combination. They have to find newer markets. I know it's not enough to replace the Chinese market, maybe half of it that
Sure.
they've lost, but this is why we've increased soybean processing facilities in order to get for renewable diesel, biodiesel, to do the renewable fuel standard program, and whenever they get the 45Z sustainable aviation fuel program going, this is the longer term development to keep the soybean sector not at the mercy of China buy. So there's both short-term and longer-term developments here. And again, the other chart would be total soybean exports by the United States and Brazil, and you can see Brazil is now by far the leading exporter of soybeans, where in 2011 the U.S. Bested Brazil, not by much, but they did in 2012. That was the glory year in U.S. agriculture, the nirvana. We had a lot more soybean exports to the world than Brazil did, but each year after that, Brazil increased relative to the United States. So this is why prior at the cabinet meeting before you had the blow up between China and the U.S., uh, President Trump said he was going to speak to Xi Jinping about buying U.S. soybeans, and a goodly amount. He said he didn't specify it,
A
but
goodly,
then a goodly amount,
a
yeah, and
bunch.
then. Yeah, huge, huge,
Huge,
as Trump would say.
huge.
But this is why it just fell apart. Now that
Ah,
doesn't mean they can pick up they can pick up the pieces. I've seen this one. They're probably penetrating on this one, and but that's where we're at. They're just flexing their muscles ahead of the possible meeting if it comes about this year. So
and that's what I told clients today. Folks who had sold soybeans off the combine and wanted to buy them back, I said, "You got beans down 20. Sure, it looks like the world's ending today. That's today. Where are we going to be if South America has a drought in a few months, Jim?
that's true. And I was surprised it didn't go down more today. So that
Soybeans?
yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a positive signal, believe it
yeah.
or not,
And
even though down that much. I thought they would be down more.
Mhm. Real quick note, just talking about let's talk about markets at the end. At the end of this, because we're going to be done with slides soon. I want
Sure,
to kind of go through all the markets, stock market,
sure.
where they are, what happened in metals, what happened in meats, and everything else, and maybe you could add a little color. Let's go this next slide. Dollar
Dollar.
sentiment. Yeah, what do you
Yeah,
mean here?
for a while there, the dollar was down 9% for earlier this year, and that's usually good for exports. But now the dollar index is on track to post its strongest weekly advance in a year, rising nearly 2%. That's a negative, by the way, to U.S. commodities, and you saw it in commentary yesterday that a number of commentaries on corn and soybeans said, well, we went down today because the value of the dollar is well, they said surging. I don't think it was surging, but it's increasing. And you can see for the future, the dollar sentiment chart turns most bullish since April. That
Wow.
means, yeah, that means the dollar could be a drag on the competitiveness of U.S. farm exports, but it usually takes more than a few months for a dollar value to have an impact one way or the other, helping or hurting. So this is maybe a trading situation right now. So that's what I wanted to say there. And the last one I had down, Tommy, is my
Mhm.
good friend John Newton. I think
Would he
we have
say
a
the same?
Yes, he would. He
I
would.
like this guy. I like John Newton, and I like
Very
you.
good guy.
Boy, is he
Very good
smart
guy.
and a great public speaker, much like yourself.
And he's great on charts. I mean, wow. He's returning to the Farm Bureau, a dual role. And I don't think, out of all the decades I've watched Farm Bureau, I don't think they've ever combined vice president of public policy and economic analysis. So he's going to lead their Farm Bureau's government relations and advocacy staff while serving as the group's top economist. And I think they couldn't have picked a better person. He knows Farm Bureau, worked there before. He
Mhm.
was the Senate Ag Committee's chief economist for
Oh, he's got a
Bozeman
heck of a
up there.
resume, yeah.
Then he went over to terrain. So we've got one of the best economists out there now at the Farm Bureau, and I like that. That's a good thing.
He resigned from Terrain?
Yeah, he resigned for. I think he told me in a email maybe 10 days. I think he'll be back over at Farm Bureau because he wanted to make sure that I sent him my morning report at his new email until he gets into Farm Bureau. That's how
Keep an
I
eye
do
on
it.
this guy, Mr. John Newton. And he was on stage with Don Wick at the Big Iron Farm Show in North Dakota, and he just speaks so well, makes it simple, doesn't speak above you,
Yes.
doesn't make you seem silly for not knowing, and that's what we're here to do. You and I are here to educate. Speaking of your newsletter here, let's get to the lightning round. There it is right there. Wiesemeyer at gmail.com. If you'd like Jim's free newsletter, go right there. I got it running on the ticker right there. Wiesemeyer at gmail.com. And Jim will
Each
send you that.
podcast, I get more than a few of the listeners
Hmm.
that email me asking to be put on, and then the word of mouth, you get more. You know how that goes, Tommy. And I'm
Yeah.
more than willing to give information out to the much needy and good ag sector.
Yeah, I just want to take 1 minute to thank everyone for watching. We just rolled out a few weeks ago premium content. We had, because of your show, people sign up. Wiesemeyer is free because of Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. But if you like additional content from Ag Bull, $25 a month, $250 a year. I texted clients within 2 minutes of that news breaking. I had a text out to Ag Bull clients, Ag Bull Trading, and then this Ag Bull Intel service. You can go to www.agbull.com. Some people don't want futures and options count, but they still want to be in the know. Does that make sense to you, Jim?
I do. I think so.
Or
Yeah.
maybe they have a broker they like, right? Hey, I've been working with this guy for 20 years, but I like you too. I want to
Yep.
get on your information research package. So
Yeah.
we're happy to provide that at a affordable affordable price, 80 cents a day. Speaking of 80 cents a day, I just found out, not that I smoke, but I didn't realize that cigarettes in some states are $15 a pack. You used to be able to buy a carton for $15, Mr. Wiesmeyer. I don't think the tobacco farmers get all that money, do they?
No, I remember when I worked at my father's service station, they were like 35 cents a pack.
Did you ever sneak one or two?
No, I never smoked one in my life because my father smoked way too much and it hurt his blood vessels, by the way.
Aw, you know who
So,
else didn't smoke? President Clinton didn't inhale. He
well,
didn't
I
in
said I didn't smoke cigarettes.
All right, let's get in the lightning round. Tommy Grisafi, Jim Wiesemeyer, cattle closed at all-time highs today. I don't know what the heck
Wow.
to say about it. Just wow, wow, wow. Upon filming this, the crude oil is down 270. Mr. Wiesemeyer, that is
Crude
5
oil's
to 6
down
months.
primarily because of the unbelievable peace agreement
Oh yeah.
between Israel and Hamas. Now there's more to go. You can never trust Hamas, but the big one was to stop the fighting and to release those prisoners, hostages, actually. And that'll happen Monday or Tuesday. President Trump said. But anyone has to tip their hat, or should,
Hmm.
to our president on that one, because it was because of him he got all parties together. And frankly, I believe him when he said this could have longer term impacts way more positive than anyone realized, where you could have peace, believe it or not, in the Middle East so that sector can grow like Saudi Arabia is growing. I mean, if I wished I could travel as much as I used to, I'd go over to Saudi Arabia because some of the architecture over there is unbelievable, and
Hmm.
Dubai, etc. So that's good news. And from a crude oil perspective, that's really the reason you're going down. Yeah.
Yeah, big moves there. Stock market, Nasdaq went from severely overbought to oversold territory within 2-3 hours. I just saw a tweet come out from Zero Hedge, and everyone's complaining, "Oh, this damn Nasdaq's overbought." Well, not anymore.
No,
If you were
no.
looking to buy a dip, now you said before we started recording, don't be surprised at all if we see a 8 to 10% pullback. Note the Dow Jones is at 40,000. If we say the Dow's down 800, that's not a stock market crash, folks.
No.
That's a 2% correction. So think of things in percent. That's my little advice for the
Yeah.
weekend.
And markets need to breathe. So I've never worried in all my years of the equity markets of an 8 to 10%. Once, if it gets over 10%, you have to watch it a little bit more, but that helps evaluations and things like that. So, and it was overdue because we've had a dramatic, my 401k is 501k. So
Mm-hmm.
I can do with
401
it.
and a half K. Hey,
Yeah.
speaking of investing and buying dips and selling rips, did you ever meet Warren Buffett?
Oh yes, I did. I've seen him at several conferences and that. He's the Oracle of Omaha,
Omaha.
just a
Yeah.
wise man beyond his means. Yes,
Yeah. All
absolutely.
right. I got a couple questions. People texted before we started the show. How long will government shutdown last? I know the prediction markets are betting on this.
Now the prediction markets keep going longer and longer. Uh, I don't think it's going to wait until November 1. Uh, the pressure is already mounting, and you can see it. I will tell you what to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it's done by the end of next week, next Friday, but it could take another Friday to do so. But the pressure is there. Watch your airline industry.
Okay.
Americans fly a lot, and you're already starting to see some cancellations or slowdown of the transportation people calling in sick. Tommy, more than average in a shutdown. Well, then that backs up the whole airline industry, and that's real big pressure point. One, two is the military. They have to work, but they're not being paid. And
Well,
so
that's
that'll be a
not
pressure
fun.
point. That'll be a pressure point as well. But it's really the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, both one and the same. The new enrollment period begins November 1. So the Democrats want to extend the COVID related enhanced Obamacare payments that total $185 billion. That's a lot of,
Wow.
even in Washington, that's a lot of money. And the Republicans say no. Now, they're talking behind the scenes of a possible compromise. Well, that takes a while to get everybody together. So watch that issue. But right now, both political parties are entrenched. So it's hard to predict when it will end, and that's why the markets, the betting markets, are saying it'll be at least another 2 weeks. I hope they're wrong because
Mm.
we've already said from a farmer perspective, the aid payments, etc. The farmer aid package is now beholden
Oh,
until the
yeah.
government
That's
gets there. So a lot of things are starting to build on the pressure mounts.
that's no good. That's just no good. Well, folks, if you're listening, watching, drop a comment. You're probably watching this on YouTube. We'll put it on some other social medias. We have Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. I am Tommy Grisafi. Jim's coming to us from Washington, D.C. I am in Valparaiso, Indiana today. You're listening to the Ag Bill podcast. And a little somber, Tommy. We laughed a few times. Very serious what's happening in the markets.
Yeah.
Last but not least, because I want to do that lightning round of talking about markets, and a few times while we were doing the show, I clicked on some gold. The gold market has been going crazy. Last thoughts, Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. Stage is yours.
China is a big participant in that gold market. They keep buying gold, and for the strategic reason is that they have lowered their purchases, their dollar accumulation by almost 50% over the last few years, because they don't want the U.S., if we did get into a conflict with them, take their dollar holdings. So that's one reason. Also, when China does that, it actually lowers the value of their currency, the renminbi or the yuan, which makes their products that much more competitive. And gold is seen as a hedge for China relative to their dollar holdings. So all that is involved and more from a speculative perspective of why we've seen a tremendous rally in the gold price.
I couldn't have said it better and didn't even understand half of what you said. Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer, this show's been Wiesemeyer's Perspectives and Perspectives, and I'm Tommy Grisafi. I could barely talk because this has been a wild one and the markets aren't even closed yet. We'll see you all real soon.